Hello and welcome to a new episode of Deep Reinforcement Learning with Unity. In the last episode we have learned how to train an agent and how to use the result to let the agent play by himself. Today we want to learn how to get this a bit more colorful and how we can get from this feedback for the training. The feedback which we want to implement is the change of the ground color depending on the success or failure of the agent. Additionally, I want to show you how to create a complete school of agents which you can train simultaneously, fast and efficient. And this said, enjoy the video. In case you have not seen the previous video yet, then please do it now. So let's continue now by going to our assets and create a new folder called Prefab. Prefabs are prefabricated parts which we can reuse. In our case, it will be our environment. I just shortly renamed the environment to the name Simple Environment. Later on we want to also have an advanced environment, and there we also need prefabs. So it makes sense to give it a proper name. Then after drag and drop the simple environment to our prefab, we will come into this new mode where we see only this prefab environment and where we will be able to make transformations. And this is very handy because now we have one environment which we can modify. But if we make in the original scene copies of this environment, they will be all influenced by the modification. Let me shortly show it to you. So let's go to the scene and then copy our environment. And then we have two of them. We have a copy of our prefab, so to say. And now if we go into our prefab again, and we, for example, make a modification by lifting the agent, and then we go back to our scene, we will see that both agents and both copies are lifted. If I modify the agent only in one environment in the scene, it will not have any effect on the prefab. And that's very cool, and this will help us to make parallel training later on. So now I placed back the agent to the floor in the prefab, and I can start making copies of the environment. In best case, you do this here on the left, where we just copy and paste environments and then you move them in the scene. You can make as many copies as you want, just don't overload your laptop or computer. And the cool thing about it is now that even though these are all copies of the same prefab, as you saw previously, they can move independently. So the training can also run independently. And it's very cool because this means that if we have 1,000 copies, we can train 1,000 independent agents. So we speed up the training by 1,000 times. And this I want to show you now. So we start a new training by opening our terminal. Then we type in the exactly same command, besides that we change our run ID to another name to not override the previous one. And then we can click enter to start Unity. And then we just have to press the play button as always to start the training. I also want to show you here my memory usage so that you see how the memory and the CPU increases when the training begins. And now you can see all the agents move independently and the results are saved in our results folder. But isn't it cool? You have now a speed up of, let's say in this case, 100 or even 1,000 times. And then the training is very much faster, and after only a few moments, you will come to your result. And the result is a perfect reward of 1 after a very short training time. But with the same amount of episodes because we are training so much faster than before. So then I interrupt the training with Control C and go to the directory where the model is saved. And now when I go to this results and then the right model, I can give this model, like before, to a certain agent in the scene. But then only this one agent would have this information. Instead, I rather go to the prefab and give the agent in the prefab the model. And then all agents in the complete Unity scene will have the model as a brain. And this is basically super cool, because then you can scale up your production or your training so much more, obviously depending on your laptop or computer which you're using, and get results way faster. You can also rename the model so that you don't override it later on. This would also be fully fine. So now you can try out yourself how many agents you can train at the same time without crashing your laptop. So this step done, I want to now change the scene, make it more colorful, make it more informative. But first, if you want to see more of this content, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. So the first thing what I want to do is to change the background color. So I go to our main camera and navigate on the right side to the skybox and move the skybox to a solid color. And my solid color will be black so that we have good contrast later on. If we take a look, then you see that looks already cooler than before. Then I can also modify the camera position and camera angle and multiple other things. But I think these kind of modifications you will figure out yourself. And I can rather focus now on a topic called materials. When we want to add colors, we basically apply a material to the surface of the object. So to do this, we go to our assets, click and create a new folder called material. And inside this folder, we can then right click and create a new material. Now just give this a proper name and apply the material to the agent by either drag and drop or by adding the material as a component. And don't forget to do all of this in the prefab so that the material will be applied to all agents in the scene. But I think you already understood the principle. Yeah, and then once the material is added, you can also change the color. So now you can do the same process for the other materials. This will be the material for the underground and also the material for our target. As you see, I'm doing this a bit faster now, but yeah, do it yourself, learn how to give proper names and make it colorful as you wish. And when we leave the prefab again, we see that the color is applied to all of the agents, to all targets and to all grounds. And if we run the game, we see now the colorful environment where the player is hitting the target. And now I want to also teach you how to get this effect of a color change of the underground in the case the player falls from the plane or in case the player hits the target. And if you might think already, yes, this has something to do with scripting again. So open your assets, go to the scripts, open the script, and then we are in the script where we want to add public variables, the public material, so that we can control them from the Unity editor. And we want to add the material fall down material, which will be red for falling down. And we want to add the win material, which will be a green underground. Now the next step is something a bit more unintuitive if you have not worked with three-dimensional objects before. So what we want to do is we want to create a mesh render. So every 3D object will have a surface, and this surface will be approximated with a mesh. And this mesh surface we want to modify later on with a color. So now we have to initialize this mesh renderer to assign a color to it later on. So if this floor mesh is not existing yet, then we tell Unity to just pick the first game object with the name floor from our scene and use the mesh structure of this component and define it as our mesh. So yeah, as said before, this is not the most intuitive thing if you have not worked with three-dimensional objects before. So don't get too confused about it. You will learn it with time. And now it's quite simple. We have now the colors, we have the mesh defined. So we just go down to our events when we either fall from the platform or hit the target. If we hit the target, then we want to set our mesh or our surface, our material, to the win material. So we want to make it green in the end. And if we fall down from the platform, then we want to set the material to the lose material or the fall down material, which will be the red color. So let's go back to Unity and assign the materials. So now we go again to the prefab, where we have already the agent to which the script is assigned. So there we don't have to reassign it. And now we can add the materials. In the script, we have now these two material variables for losing and winning. And we also have once the mesh variable, which we can now manually assign by doing drag and drop of the floor object to this variable. Now we also want to populate the two other variables for the materials. So we go to our assets, then to materials, and there we first have to create the materials. So one color we already have, this we can use for the win or the success of the agent. But then we also have to create another material for losing. One material we want to have green, that will be the success, and the other material will be our losing material and should get the color red to indicate us that the agent failed and was falling from the platform. And then as usual, we use drag and drop to assign the materials to the script that is attached to the agent. And if we're done with this, we can just try it out by starting a new training, or you could also just hit the play button, but we can start a new training, and then during the training we will see what happens if the agent falls down. And maybe change the run ID that you don't overwrite something. And yes, if everything worked, then the training will start and you will see that if the agent falls from the platform, the underground will change the color. And if the agent then hits the target, the color will change again. And this is a great way of visualizing how good the agent is at the current moment of the training. Alright, now we have a good tool to be able to make everything a bit more complicated, but also more interesting. And before we start this, I want to give you a little homework, which you then compare with the next video. You should make the scene a bit more complicated. So in this homework, you should add another target, like shown here. You should add a target, like a ball, which is a bit larger. It should be able to fall from the platform. It should have a velocity, and it should give a bigger reward than our first target. So the aim of the agent should be to first go for the big target, the moving one, and then go to the small target in case it could not reach the big one. And the solution will be shown in the next video. Thank you for watching. And if you want to support me on my journey, please consider to like and subscribe. And if you want to support me a bit more, take a look at Patreon. There you will see videos earlier, and I will upload videos which are too detailed for YouTube. So thanks a lot and see you next time.